This is the eMachines eMonster 500A running Windows 98. This PC and its other variants launched in late 1999 to early 2000 for I believe around $899, which would be about $1,700 in 2025. I'll be doing an overview of the machine including specs, game benchmarks, accessories, and a few upgrades I've done to it as well. I've kept this machine mostly stock, but I will point out any changes that I've made. On the front of the machine are the stock DVD and floppy drives with the iconic Never Obsolete sticker. The idea was you could get a new PC every 2 years for $99 if you join their ISP for $20 a month. There is also a USB 1 port and a game port on the front. The sticker explains the specs of the PC, but in this build a few of these have been upgraded significantly. On the back there is a power supply outlet, PS2 keyboard and mouse ports, another USB 1 port, 2 serial ports, a printer port, speaker, line-in, and microphone port, VGA port on the graphics card, and a network port. The network port is not original and has been upgraded from the stock modem that was built in. I have the OEM eMachines ball mouse, which is actually made by Logitech, but I switched to this Microsoft optical mouse. It's slightly newer as it came out in 2003, but it is a well-needed upgrade. I remember this being the first optical mouse I ever used. This is one of the OEM eMachines keyboards I have. This is the EKB 5000A, which has a few shortcut buttons and some volume buttons. I also have the original box for it. I have two other eMachines keyboards, each with different designs and functionalities. I have an older KB 2971, which has no shortcut buttons at all, and I have a newer EKB 5190A, which has way too many shortcut buttons, as well as a little paper display you can probably take out and customize. For the monitor, I was somewhat lucky and found a new in-box eMachines eView 14, which is a 14-inch VGA CRT. It was manufactured in January of 1999. I have a few accessories that are nice to have, including the eMonster user guide, the CRT user guide, a sealed OEM copy of the Windows 98 book, and the Restore CD. Also, the CRT user guide is typed up in everyone's favorite font, Comic Sans. To see more of the machine, it needs to be opened up to take a look inside. The motherboard is a Trigem Napoli 2, which is a micro ATX motherboard. It supports a maximum of 256 megabytes of SD RAM, it has an Intel 440ZX chipset, and a Crystal CS4280CM integrated sound chip. There's a slot 1 socket for CPUs, compatible with Celerons and Pentiums up to Pentium 3. It has a 3.3 volt AGP 2X slot for video cards, 3 PCI slots, and an ISA slot. The bottom PCI and ISA slots are shared and cannot be used at the same time. I put a link to the manual of the motherboard in the video description. The original power supply was an Ilson ISP 120SI, which ran at 120 watts. I didn't bother testing it at all as it's just safer to replace it entirely, so I removed it and replaced it with a different newer power supply running at 350 watts. The CPU is an Intel Pentium 3 running at 500 MHz. It sits on the slot 1 connector on the motherboard. I'm used to seeing CPUs fitting into a square socket on the motherboard, not pretending like it was a stick of RAM. The computer comes default with 64 megabytes of SD RAM, but I have upgraded it to the maximum this motherboard can handle, which is 256 megabytes. I have two 128 megabyte sticks installed currently. I removed the stock 13GB IDE hard drive and replaced it with a verbatim 128GB SSD. 128GB is about the maximum hard drive size for Windows 98, so I decided to go for the maximum with an SSD and not a conventional hard drive. There were no issues getting it to work, I just needed an IDE to SATA converter board and just used the Restore CD after using Fdisk to create a DOS partition. I did some benchmarking on this hard drive about a year ago, and here are the results from those tests. I've also added this HDD clicker into the machine. It's a small piezo speaker that simulates the clicking sound of heads moving in an older hard drive. It plugs into the hard drive LED headers on the motherboard and will click every time the LED would light up. It's not 100% accurate to the actual heads moving on an older hard drive, as it is tied to the hard drive activity LED instead, but it's close enough for me honestly. I have a link in the video description. For the video card, it comes stock with an ATI Expert 128. It has one VGA port and it slots into the AGP slot on the motherboard, which is the slot used for video cards before PCI Express. It has 16 megabytes of SD RAM and clocks in at 90 MHz. I will be showing some game benchmarks later with this card. As the machine powers on, an eMachines logo appears, which is just an overlay to hide the post screen. Pressing tab will hide this overlay and the post screen appears. The only thing it's really hiding is the RAM check. Pressing the delete key will enter the BIOS of the machine. There's a lot of options in the BIOS, too many to go through individually, so I'm just going to quickly scroll through the options. I do like how it has mouse support though. So now it's time to power on the machine fully and do some benchmarks. I started out with 3D Mark for benchmarks, and I chose 3D Mark 99 and 3D Mark 2000. I didn't benchmark testing for 3D Mark 2001 as it would crash every time I would try to start the benchmark. This video card primarily works best with DirectX 6 games and struggles slightly with DirectX 7, and gets the best performance at 640x480 resolution. I made this graph with various scores at various resolutions and color depths so you can see where it scores. Also, I'm using the OEM video drivers from the Restore CD and not the latest available drivers for the card, as I was getting between 10 to 15% lower benchmark scores with the newer driver. All of the following tests were done at 640x480 resolution unless otherwise stated. With Quake 3 Arena, I was getting time demo scores around 39 FPS. Here's some footage of the Unreal Tournament intro fly-through. I would probably say around 45 to 50 FPS was the average during this test. Here's some footage of the Unreal intro fly-through. Probably around 25 to 30 FPS was the average. With the Turok benchmark, I had a score of about 121 average. I ran the Forsaken demo at 800x600 since 640x480 ran too well. At 800% speed, the demo averaged around 70 FPS. With the Expendable time demo, I had an average of 56.7 FPS. I used to play a lot of Unreal Tournament in the early 2000s, but I had the non-gaming variant of the eMonster, which was called the E-Tower. I was stuck on software rendering mode since I didn't have a graphics card. In this mode, you miss out on some visuals such as decals caused from weapon damage and lights in the levels. I used to see screenshots from other people who had decals and lights because they had a graphics card, and I wish I had one when I was younger. This eMonster is pretty much the equivalent of my childhood PC, but with the power and the graphics card that I wanted. I ran some DOS benchmarks as well, provided by Phil's Computer Lab. I have a link to download the benchmarks in the video description. On 3D Bench 1.0C, I got a score of 319.7 FPS. On Chris's 3D benchmark 640x480, I got a score of 244.8 or 146.9 FPS. On PC Player benchmark 640x480, I got a 59.2 player bench score. On the Doom Max Details benchmark, I got a score of 120 FPS. And for the last DOS benchmark, on the Quake time demo 640x480, I got a score of 58.4 FPS. That's pretty much it for the overview of the machine. If there's anything else you want to see from this machine, perhaps certain games running on it, let me know and I could do a short video showing them off. Thanks for watching.